Hey everybody, I'm Sean Pittman, and thank you for joining me. We're going to be spending the next 10 minutes together with me sharing how to formulate hair color. I'm going to offer 5 simple steps to help you meet and or exceed your guest expectations. So we'll talk about natural levels, desired levels, underlying pigments, desired tones, and gray percentage. Let's get started. So your natural level, it's kind of like our start point. Not kind of, it is our start point. It's like the GPS. You can't know where you're going to unless you know where you're coming from. So having said that, you're going to be able to discover your client's natural or existing levels. The reason I say existing is because let's say they color their hair the night before and they hate it and they're coming into the salon wanting you to correct it. So you might not have a natural level to go from. You'll be working with an existing level. And so what we use is a level finder. The level finder helps us determine where the client starts, and it helps us know where they're going to as well. But starts with 2 being the darkest. It's an international level system, and 10 being the lightest. And what you'll do is take a section, a little swatch section, and you want to fan it out so that you can actually really truly identify the level. You'll see I'm using the swatch level 4, and if you notice, if I put it up a little closer to you, the condensed side looks so much darker than the fanned out side. So it's really important when you're swatching that you're letting some light get through it, because when you take a section of hair to swatch, again, you're not wanting to condense it. You want to have a small section that light can get through, and you want to just take that swatch, slide it right on through, and you're looking for it to disappear. So keep in mind that your client may have more than one level going on, so do your due diligence. Swatch the front, swatch the back. And so for desired level, it's pretty much where they want to go. Your visuals are your best tool. They help you identify, what your client actually wants. For instance, let's say your client comes to you and says, oh, I want auburn. Well, your perception of auburn might be different from her perception of auburn. So that picture will help you be able to match on, your swatch book, the closest shade or hue that will, support the picture. Also keep in mind, she might have a visual that has more than one level and different tones, so you need to make sure that you identify them as well. So the third thing is underlying pigments. And the definition of underlying pigments are natural warm tones that come out of the hair during the lightening process. So with this process, rule of thumb is if you're going to go lighter, more than 2 levels, you've got to identify if it's going to help you or if it's kind of throwing a monkey wrench into your formulation. This is what I mean. You ever hear people say, oh, my hair pulls red. I've got Irish in my blood and I pull red. Well, I ain't got a bit of Irish in me, but if you lighten my dark hair, you're going to start to see a hue of red come out. And then at the middle level, you're going to see orange. And at the lightest level, you're going to see yellow and then pale yellow. So for instance, let's say which I'm a natural level 3, and I decide that I want to go a level 6. When I reach that level 6, you're going to see this really bright hue of orange come out of my hair. And so that orange could really help me if I want a copper result. But if I'm wanting more of a cooler tone, it's not going to help so much. So now we go into our fourth, our desired tone. The tone is like the color that the client wants. Do they want red? Do they want ash? So, or auburn, So you will identify that. And then the gray percentage. Some people like to go the route of less than 50% or more than 50%. I'm a little bit more specific. I break my gray clients up into 4 categories. Either they're up to 25% white hair, meaning there's more pigmented hair on the head and fewer, strands of white hair. 50% is when you can't really tell. Is it more white strands or more pigmented strands? And over 75% white, clearly, that's more white strands of hair on the head than there are pigmented, and 100% is 100% gray. That's pretty self-explanatory. So I'm going to quickly recap. You're going to discover the natural level or existing levels, the desired level or levels by using a visual, the underlying pigments that you'll encounter. Now, your underlying pigments are indicative of the desired. So if you've got 2 desired levels, you need to identify 2 underlying pigments. And then the desired tone. Your desired tone is your color. Your stroke 4, stroke 7, stroke 1s. And then your gray percentage. What's really important about identifying your gray clients is making sure that you are effectively formulating their hair color or hair color formula, but maximizing the coverage. And you'll do so by either adding neutral or gold to your formula. Keep in mind, neutral will soften the effect of any tone, and gold will just make it richer, somewhat brighter. So now, looks like we've got time for the bonus that I promised you. So, when you are doing or administering your consultation with your guest, you want to identify the hair type and hair texture, their hair's density, their porosity, and their elasticity. So, hair type and hair texture is important to know because curlier hair might require a different technique than straighter hair. Let's say if you're highlighting. Also, the texture could be a little thick or coarse, so you have to formulate accordingly, all right? So for the density, identifying the density helps you determine how much product to mix up. And also your application skills, because you will probably take smaller subsections for someone who has dense hair than you would someone who has normal or fine density. The elasticity is hair's ability to stretch and return. And so with that, it lets you know if the client is a good candidate for a chemical service. I mean, we've all, I'm sure, experienced over-processed hair, touching over-processed hair, and that hair will stretch. It will not return, right? So you want to make sure the hair has the elasticity so that it can withstand the chemical service that you are going to be performing. And then last but not least, hair's porosity. Porosity is hair's ability to absorb. Porosity can alter your processing time with chemical services, but more importantly with color, certain tones with porosity. Porous hair rejects warmth. So like if you're going darker or like doing corrective color and you've got a color that's got a tonal value that's has some cool tones in it. It doesn't have to be a majority of cool tones, but depending upon the degree of the porosity that you're working with, that porous hair will reject any warmth in that family of that pigment, and it'll gravitate towards that coolness. So porous hair can be a doozy. And also remember that neutral can grab darker on porous hair as well. So I hope those bonuses helped you and were valuable to you. And I can't wait to see you again so that we can further discuss a little bit more about hair color. I'll see you soon, and thanks again for joining.